Welcome to the SiteVisit podcast. Leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. With your hosts, Andrew Hansen, James Faulkner, and Christian Ham.
From the SiteMag studio in Yaletown, Vancouver.
Let's get down to it.
All right, we're back. And we're recording. Actually recording. Andrew, it's good to see your face. James, how you guys doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good. A couple of good days, sunny days, so it's amazing what that does for your mood, but feeling good.
Yeah.
No, you can see the beautiful blue sky behind you there, Andrew. Looks
It looks fake. I've had a couple
It
comments
does look fake.
on Zoom calls where it's like, hey, it looks fake, but I'm figuring this divider right here makes it look a little bit more realistic.
Oh, you put that in.
Yeah.
Throw people off.
So I say actually recording. We've been having some fun, having some of these great roundtable discussions. We brought in Cam from RAM, Cam at RAM. He's going to join us again because last week we gave it a go, had a great conversation. And the design was changed just a little slightly on the platform we use. And but we're really recording now, and we're really going to put this one out. So it's good to catch up and maybe recap a little bit about those things. As we were chatting about kind of before we got going here, we were talking about coming out of, this cold snap, not necessarily up here, but looking at what was happening south of the line, even down in Texas. They experienced this crazy once in a 120-year storm. And we talked a little bit about with Cam just about cold weather construction and what would even happen down there with those kind of guys. You'd probably just shut everything down completely. There's probably no techniques or methods for operating in that kind of weather. So I don't know. We just talked a little bit about that. And obviously you guys probably followed it, right?
Yeah. I mean, mostly on Twitter. Like I read all the comments regarding, the damage and the impact. It's pretty crazy. I think, like what we talked about before we started recording, it was like a combination of events where, the infrastructure's not there, whether it's snow plows, whether it's the way buildings are constructed, and then the weather as well too. So, really sad to see, but I think it's interesting from a build perspective when you look at that impact that it has. I've seen a lot of stuff just regarding like trade capacity. So, with all the damage that's been done, especially on like the plumbing side, 'cause there's a lot of water leaks and things like that. Just the trade capacity to get that up and running is pretty interesting to see. And it's always sad to see that too, especially in times like now where 2020's already been a hard year. 2021's already shaping up to be interesting. So that's all I can say really.
I wonder if is that a Mother Nature? Because you said it. What was the report about? It happens in, when did it last happen? That kind of cold snap down there?
It was like over 100 years ago or something, based on the temperature.
Yeah, depending on whether or not they were recording that properly or not.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So do you wonder if this is the global climate change patterns or if it's just 100 years, here we go, or is it the environmental impact, you think, doing this?
Well, in construction, like when you're, especially with, civil designs for like drainage and stuff like that, which is similar to this, it's a weather event. They will always design for like a once in 100-year event. So it's like these crazy dramatic events will happen in all sorts of different ways, whether it's mass flooding, mudslides, I'm not a, what do you call it, meteorologist? I don't know the terms. But these things happen, right? And you have to design for the capacity in which they happen. But in areas like Texas, like it's one thing in Canada to prepare for cold weather, or in a really rainy climate to prepare for wet weather and capacity for drainage. But in a place where you just would never ever expect that, it's crazy to still have to design towards that. But I don't think you're ever really completely ready for it, right? And infrastructure in place to support it.
And I think a big thing from what I read was the power grid, right? So I think from what I've learned is that Texas has a lot of independent power, and there's some politics at play there. But I think when you have like a combination of like renewable, so they had a lot of wind power, and then the combination of natural gas and and other energy kind of programs. But when electricity goes down, I believe in the weather too as well, it impacted a lot of those power producing assets. And so you kind of had this combo where huge demand for power because it's cold. And so people are kind of cranking up their heat, office buildings, commercial buildings, etc. And then the grid drops and you kind of have this perfect storm, which especially with Twitter, you see everyone becomes an expert in power generation.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
really quickly overnight. So you're starting to read all the feedbacks and stuff, but that is crazy.
I wonder how long the Tesla power packs last when there's overcast and it's snowing. Because you got the solar on the roof, right? They've done all that. And then suddenly, just imagine that. That's almost a bit worse. Like there's one thing when your power just like, doosh, it's gone. There's one thing to watch it go down slowly, and you know you're going to be out. Because
Totally.
if it's not going to generate any more power because of the snow. Yikes.
Well, I just love how when these types of things happen and we talk about like preparedness and all that kind of stuff, there's no fault to anybody, down there really. That's just such a freak event for that to happen. But when we look at where we are, Pacific Northwest, cold weather, wet weather, snowy weather, is something we deal with when it comes to construction. We factor it into everything, right? Like building buildings when it's pouring rain for 6 months of the year. But it's always funny, even for where we are, when we get and when we were talking with Cam last week, we had, our one cold snap of the year that we get up here.
Yeah.
And everything goes into complete mayhem, even up here when we get like an inch of snow or something like that. Everything changes. Construction keeps moving, like nobody's really phased from that standpoint. But for all other things, it's bizarre how even something that you do expect can still disrupt your day and your week and everyone's commutes usually. So
yeah, the on the iPhone you get the the native weather app, and my wife being from Calgary, she gets the snowfall warning on her phone. She's like, 5 centimeters, seriously? It's nothing. Yeah.
So in addition to going through that, we talked a lot about, so Cam, he's joined us before on the podcast. He's going to pop on in a couple minutes here. He's had a cool progression from the field, being right down from the ground level, coming out of school, through carpentry, into site management, into construction management, and more general oversight of multiple projects. He's done work up in Alberta. And so he chatted a little bit about, there's some projects that actually he and I worked on together in the brutal cold. So you'd go out.
Dynamic duo.
The dynamic duo reunited once again. But, he was talking about, he did a lot of tilt construction. So concrete tilt ups. You're up in Edmonton or Fort McMurray, Northern Alberta. You're lifting one panel, and then every 20 minutes, you're basically going inside for like a 10, 15 minute warm up just because it's minus 40, 45 degrees outside. So, that's pressing forward and still continuing to do stuff despite the elements. But man, oh man, does it affect efficiencies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somehow we got on from that conversation. We talked about just people's general, how they respond to that when they're out there in the field. We somehow started talking about, I don't know how we got on the topic of, was it like wearables? When we were talking about, especially like coming out of 2020, monitoring certain things about people on the job site, vitals, all this kind of stuff, cold weather, people, I don't know, it just like heightens people's concerns and issues and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, when you've got you got the COVID situation, if you got an Apple Watch, I don't know how many of those would have an Apple Watch or an Android Watch or whatever. You got the health stuff, and I don't know, it makes everyone hyper aware of this stuff, and maybe to a point of, I don't know, a bit of neurosis to some degree. You need, as Cam was saying, you need a consistent message on site, and it's very difficult to manage people when they're all have different situations going on. But I think he was describing that because he's a guy from the field, he was able to level with people and not just be the office guy showing up at site. Right. They look forward to him coming there, and if he's going to come there and deliver a message of unity in terms of this is how we do things around here at a RAM construction site, and rally the troops and make sure all the trades are on. Because it's weird, because you got all the trades with their own policies too, right? And then you got to manage that. So it seems like he's done a good job. It seemed to me anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's always it is interesting, right? When you're coming from the field and now you're overseeing multiple projects. We talk often a lot about like field to office, and in the last couple podcasts we talked about the office, like the office where you've got more of your call it your headquarters or whatever, but then you also have like the field office, and that varies from site to site, from job to job, whatever it happens, region to region. Talking a lot about, I think we were starting to talk about what the actual setup of a site office looks like, but the culture on a job site is just so uniquely different than obviously what's going on at the fixed location back at headquarters, where something as simple as the heat is on makes all the difference, right? So you're dealing with all these elements and different things, and people have way different concerns, and they have to be, you have to communicate with them accordingly.
Yeah, there was, it's kind of interesting how, like, the communication part was also talking about like how he was trying to get some of his people onto Microsoft Teams, and the guy was like, he had a few people trying to do it on their phone, and their face is like covering up the whole the whole camera, and they're screaming into the thing, and it's really difficult for some people to grab this stuff. I mean, we're sort of insulated from it, Andrew, you being in marketing, and all your people are on computers all day long, right?
Yeah.
Very, very high level of, understanding understanding how things work in general. And so do we, right? We're like, oh yeah, video chat, sure, no problem. I'll choose a background, blah, blah, blah. These guys are like, video what? Like, what am I doing here? I mean, some of them. It's mostly the older generation, but there's a lot of those guys out there. That's where a lot of the value and a lot of the leadership is for getting stuff done. If those guys don't quite get what they need, then things can kind of fall apart pretty quick.
2020 was good for everybody though, in terms of adoption and pushing things along. Like, and it's not just singling out, your personnel that are in the field. They're doing something completely different than what we're doing or what the office is doing anyways, right? Like just the level of interaction with, computers and, whatever interface comes along with that, versus actually having to build, to coordinate, to deal with elements, to then, okay, now I got to hop on the computer and do some admin work, right? So they're doing all sorts of different things there. So, but it did a lot in the last year to push people towards that level of adoption. Didn't really have didn't really have a choice, right? So people embraced awesome things like we talked about, the whole QR code thing, talking about Microsoft Teams, like communication with everybody on your job site via video conferencing, right? It's not like it was a new thing, but man, oh man, people took to that, especially in construction, just because it's like, okay, it's been, ripe for the disruption. And 2020 was a marked year for the pace in which adoption of these things took place.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't have choice because, the ability to meet as a big group or bring in design consultants or bring in other third parties and just kind of huddle, if that's taken away, you kind of have to adapt. You don't really have a choice. So I think that's what accelerated a lot of it. And then a lot of people that are resistant to change, once they started to do it and use it, like we all do, and becomes part of more of a routine, then it becomes, part of the standard operating procedures for sites. We saw a lot of that. But I think too, it's tough. Like when it's -4 out, which for people listening in BC, -4 is cold in BC. We like to say we have a wet cold. So if it's -4 in BC, it's -40 in Alberta.
It's like -20. It feels so
cold.
At
least. But, if you're there in the field and it's raining, and it's kind of like, -10, and you're on your little iPhone trying to, go onto Microsoft Teams, like it's tough too, right? So seeing that, especially in the winter months, it's just that balance of what's practical, what's real, and what works. So yeah, we've heard lots of good feedback that way too.
Yeah. Well, going back to that, we're also talking about the a follow-on to the chat we had about the site trailer. I think Cam had a bunch of ideas too, which was kind of cool about when that thing's going to sort of get a little bit better. And
Whoa.
Yeah.
The one as we're talking.
Hello, Mr. Cam. How are you?
Check, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Hey.
There he is.
Cam Roy.
There we go. That's exciting.
That is exciting. How do you like the SiteVisit little kit?
I felt John dropped it off yesterday, and my wife was like, "Whoa, movie star! Like, what are you doing? Finding Nemo 2 or 3 or you in The Incredibles now is like the new supervillain or what?"
Finding Nemo. I like the way she goes
say-
for the fish film first.
I actually she went with Incredibles first, but when Ray told the story, I thought of Finding Nemo first because that's my jam. So
There
Such
you
a
go.
good movie.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
movie.
How are you?
I
guys
didn't
doing?
realize how scary Finding Nemo was the first one. Like when you're watching it with your kid,
It's
in the
sad.
opening scene when the family gets like ripped apart and separated, I'm like watching it and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
is
It's something
intense.
else. It's intense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. You don't really
It's like-
realize it.
It's like a kid walking out of the Disneyland boundary and being stuck in like the middle of California somewhere,
Don't know where
going off the shelf to the ocean
Safe
shelf.
place. But
So Cam, it was kind of funny. We waiting for you to come on. I think Christian and I were doing our best to recite all the stuff you talked about, and it was a little challenging.
Oh no, did we cover a lot?
We did. It was a great conversation.
I just kind of
Yeah.
rambled.
So it's awesome to have you back here.
No,
so
it's,
how's-
thanks for having me back, guys. I really appreciate it. It's unfortunate.
So-
that, last time, but yeah, what's up?
No, it's
We
all
were
good.
talking about like the weather. I think I think it was on last Tuesday, right?
Yep.
And then yeah, and how everyone was reacting to it, and yeah, any further stuff since then? Since the weather, is everything back to normal now? Is there schedules all screwed up or what?
Yeah, no, I think everything's getting back-ish to normal. I mean, I say that now, but I heard that there's some more kind of colder weather and bad weather coming in over the next couple of days. So I mean, you kind of just go for it from there. I was just in one of our monthly safety meetings, and we were actually talking about some challenges during the winter weather, and the slips and falls. And we were going through some accidentals that have happened over the last little while, and it's out there for sure. And but the challenges are the challenges, and like I said last time, that's just one piece to many different puzzles that we have to go through on site, right? So, but hopefully we're gonna keep the good weather going into spring now and keep on firing on all cylinders into summer. So,
Since I've been in the construction industry, I've changed. One thing has completely changed in my mind is open exposed rebar ends that you see on people's property everywhere.
oh yeah,
Like we were tobogganing,
Yeah.
and there was
Sounds like a bad
on
story.
the left and right hand side of
Doesn't
this
sound
road
good.
was open rebar,
yeah,
and I was thinking that's like a shish kebab.
oh yeah.
Like that will
It-
go
it
through you
happens.
like a knife through butter.
And it's happened. There's it's probably one of the it's honestly one of the most dangerous ones, I think. I mean, it's not even the even just a gentle fall can really hurt you pretty bad. But even like when they cut it, like when you cut rebar, when you use the shear, you get like a sharp end on one side kind of
You
that
do,
sticks
yeah.
out. And I mean,
It
I've
cuts.
seen I got one on my hand. It's like
Yep.
pretty aggressive cuts and stuff like that. But yeah, they used to come up with those mushroom cap ones, the protectors, and they actually don't even allow those anymore. I don't think. We've all switched to like 2x4s on top with a little
Yep.
cone, little circle shape, because the cone ones, if you fall from too high, it'll still go
Breaks
right
them.
through you. So yeah, it's
Oh,
sketchy stuff.
the plastic ones it'll just go through those.
Yeah, the mushroom ones you can't even because it pops. The rebar pops right through.
Oh, and that's even worse. It's almost like focuses it.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not
You know what's really
Crazy.
it's really funny is that I think we talked about a little bit about tech evolving, and I think we were talking about like concrete sensors or something like that.
Yep.
But I think it's hilarious that when you bring this up, James, and it is a real thing. Like I think everyone that's been on a construction site for a extended period of time has had somebody have an incident with rebar. Could be anything, right? Falling from somewhere or just whatever, nicking yourself on it. But I think it's kind of interesting that we go from having some advanced technique like these plastic caps to just be like, just throw some dimensional lumber on it.
Yeah.
Like that's the best we can come up with. Sometimes in construction, it's just, hey man, what's most practical and straightforward and right in front of us is actually the best way to go about doing this.
There was a company came out with some plastic was like a plastic doobie with like a 2x4 holder to put the 2x4 on top. But I think those are from a leg, I think. So it's easier just gotta make a little coffin and throw it on top of the bar.
Yeah.
You always got 2x4 kicking around and some tie wire or whatever else you need. So yeah, totally.
Nowadays the 2x4 is pretty expensive though.
Oh, true.
$1,000.
You know what?
Said something like the last 3 months prices doubled. It's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. We were just actually doing an estimate the other day, and we were looking at 2x12 cost, and 2x12 is like, it's just astronomical. So we had a job actually just the other day. We had to put some roof curbs up for some rooftop units, and the engineer spec'd a 12x12, I think it was, blocking for the thing. Each piece was like I don't know, $1,500 or some damn thing. It was crazy for a solid piece of 12x12. So yeah, it's getting up there for sure. Jimmy P knew what he was doing when he bought Canfor. So
Yep. Yeah, no doubt.
And Wes Fraser. The guy plays both sides. I like it.
Cam, one thing I think we all love when you come on, clearly you bring a great perspective from the job site, having began your career there, but also progressed into the place that you're at now, where you're overseeing multiple job sites and working with people both in the field and the office. And we touched on it last time, and we have in even the all these roundtables that we've started since the beginning of 2021 is really just like construction culture, right? So like, and the difference of like office culture, field culture, the dynamic of in between. And right before you came on, we were talking about site trailers, and we always get on this tangent. We got to bring some site trailer pro on who can help us with this whole site trailer conversation about like advancing things and what it's like there. But maybe we can recap a little bit about the unique aspects of construction culture, but as it is on the job site, and maybe how that's even evolved a little bit over the course of the last year. So just from your perspective in terms of, how that interaction looked, and then, adoption of new things, and, what's the current state of, construction culture, and it's changing. in the field, not just like, it was kind of broad.
I don't think it's really changed too much. I think we touched on that last time where I was mentioning, the different people types and the different personality types, right? So you have the 60-year-old man that hacks a pack of darts a day, and then you have the 22-year-old kid that is wearing brand new cards and always has everything so fresh, right? And so I think it's those interactions that have kind of been changing throughout the last year or so, where everyone has to be a little bit more careful on how they approach other people and how those interactions go, because it's a slippery slope to a yelling and shouting match on the side of the street, where side of the job site, where they're like, you don't care about COVID, and you don't care about COVID, and COVID's gonna kill you, and it's just it just blows up, and right. So I think that those interactions, people feel so strongly about those different things, and I think that's probably the biggest. That's probably been the biggest change, is just how those people interact. But I mean, other than that, just some of the other site trailers you mentioned, I'm still trying to think up a pretty slick site trailer setup that's super modern, and a couple different ones, one on top of the big window or something, and instead of stairs up, and the culture's been good. I mean, it's something that the office, myself, as we talked about last time, going to see the boys and making them feel good, and all those sorts of things, right? So but yeah, that's kind of where it's at.
But back to this, okay, and I feel like we keep coming back to the site trailer, and
I was gonna say, in Campbell Heights area, looks like Prism just started a bunch of work down there, and I was driving past it late at night, and they had all these in their site trailers, they had all these exterior lights hanging out. Kind of had a patio vibe.
Beatty.
Was it Beatty?
Yeah, so Prism's right beside, but it's the Beatty side. Yeah, we call it the Beatty parking lot. And you enter off 192 there, and I drove past it the morning. It was like 6 in the morning. It looked like it was like Christmas time.
Yeah.
And it was just, they got like the patio vibe. And I mean, I did that one time I was on a job site for quite a while. And we had some extra concrete, and I poured like a broom finished patio out front of the site trailer stairs and stuff. We had a barbecue set up, and it was pretty slick. So, but I mean, the site trailer in general, like it's just been, I don't know, like you guys have touched on it. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mean, it's just been so like just such a, Brico 40-foot, couple of rooms with the boys' lunchroom, meeting room in the middle, And, I've been looking at it for a while, and I'm close to pulling the trigger on kind of a pretty slick design because, we have one super in right now. He's on a project, and he's just using a sea can. Like that's all he has is just a sea. He's got a lunchroom for the boys. We got a tool crib, and we have just his 20-foot sea can. And, wouldn't it be slick to have double doors that open up with a sliding glass door and like big table inside, some pot lights, maybe a skylight up top. I don't know. I just think it's super. There's a couple of guys on Instagram I've seen. There's a couple of residential guys that have some pretty slick setups. Yeah. One guy's actually got 2. He stacks them. So he puts like the tool crib below, and then he's got the office on top, and it's offset by a couple feet. So he's got the stairs up on the back side. And,
who's that?
Yeah. Powers Construction.
Yeah, they did a cool time-lapse video where they stacked them all up. And like showed that dynamic. It's pretty cool.
That was that house they did on super cool, the house they did. But they have site trailer. They have a couple site trailers like that too.
Mm-hmm. The whole front's
where they actually have it's crazy. That's super cool.
In order to do that in some scale, I think that if you attack that from here's a premium new site trailer, all the R&D that goes into that, the materials, et cetera, the thing's going to be so expensive, people aren't going to be able to afford it and won't be able to go into a budget. But I think that the financial model has to change. And that's the thing is like, if the business model is different, if you have like a different kind of, if it's subsidized by some other branding or some other, it changes everything, right? And because other industries can pay for the shortfall of how much something costs for something premium. Yep. But, and it just doesn't seem like that's the only way you could get that going. But you could do something super cool, like having a large warehouse that's going to make modular. I mean, we're all into this modular thing right now, right? Modular building in general. Like they can't make a modular site trailer. Come on, you got to be kidding me,
right?
Like, that should be so cool. Easy.
Yeah, like it's been the same one. You see the same William Scott's been a Brico for the last 20 years,
and
right?
Those seem to me like not very sturdy. Like if something fell on those, isn't it just to cut it in half? It looks like it's made out of cardboard.
I mean the doors definitely are. I mean, there's one. I think Christian can attest to this one. The doors are fairly thin.
Tell us.
There was some holes. There was some holes in one from one job, I think.
Kicking the door open
and a couple holes in the walls and stuff. Yeah. I got into it, but yeah, it should be changing. It should change. I mean, you always say it's the last industry to really catch on to some of these things, right? I mean, we've always said that, even from last episode. Like it's always, the cool stuff never comes to construction right away, and the change never happens right away in construction, right?
We just got to keep talking about it. That's got to be our beef.
Keep bringing it up. But I mean, on the price point though, of those trailer rentals and stuff. I mean, not to dive into it, but you wouldn't believe how much a monthly cost is for one of those 40-foot trailers. And I mean, if you have a project that's a year, 2 years, we have a project coming up that's going to be a year and a half for this mixed use thing, and a year and a half at $1,000 a month. I mean, I can build one for that. You know what I mean? So, there is something said about that too. But even like you're saying, I mean, if you're doing a job for somebody, or just start putting some pieces together, right?
Yeah, that's super high risk business to get into.
Yeah. For sure.
But seeing people, like the only way that the office trailer is elevated is when people do a custom job. Mm-hmm. What James said about something sustainable, like there has to be, and I know it comes down to costs and general conditions and what you carry and all that kind of stuff. And you're not gonna carry $5,000 a month to have this ultra high tech, completely connected, just the chill vibes, kind of coffee room, whatever. You just whatever. But if there's something that's going to change that can affect culture on a job site, if an office is going to have a golf green, or if a ping pong table.
Kegerator.
You hearing me over there? Oh
yeah.
Yeah, I said kegerator.
oh, kegerator. There you go. Right. I mean, obviously, there's limitations on what you can do on a job site, operating machinery and all that kind of stuff. But the same sort of idea, right, about what we say contributes to culture in the office. There's got to be things like that, other than being crammed around a foldable table with a little microwave that you found on the side of the road,
For sure.
or that's been on the last 20 projects since the early 2000s. That's there and caked in spaghetti sauce and whatever. So there's got to be something that can eventually be produced in a little more scale, and
Something's got to
we're just going to keep
I like-
talking about it.
I like James' idea that he shared with a virtual safety board, because nothing's worse when you go to a site trailer, you look at the safety board, and it's like, a JHA from like 2019, and like, it's for like a resi project, and you're on like an industrial tilt up, or like it just happens because you move so quick. So having like a digital safety board where like real time, so it snowed the night before, your HSE manager in head office can do a quick, risk analysis on slips, trips, and falls. It's up on the board, things like that. You put it right beside the Canucks, hockey score from last night. You're gonna get some eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you have the brought to you by Tim Hortons little thing in the bottom, and it costs nothing.
Yeah. Here you go.
You guys are so smart.
We'll call it a cam board instead of like a ram board or something. Cam board.
Yeah, the
Cam board. Camera
Yeah,
board.
Cam is quite a good name actually, because you've got so many cool things. Like
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Who do we got to bring on to further this conversation? We just got to bring on the Brickco
We're talking to the guy.
people.
Cam board.
Oh, Camboard. Oh, this is a startup.
Camboard.
You need someone to come disrupt it. You can't have like the incumbent, the people that have been there for however long. You need someone to just jump in out of nowhere and be like,
Need a new
You
guy.
see that there's a whole bunch of other things that you like. The actual site trailer needs to become the nucleus to a whole bunch of other services. I mean, that's how if you can integrate it and think of that business model as well. Like if you go, the other part that's totally broken, in my opinion, on a job site is food delivery. I mean, like people going out to get, it's a gone show, right? Like why
that's a good point.
Food is like everyone needs, they break at the exact same time, and everyone's doing all sorts of macerations of, finding a way to satiate themselves, and it doesn't even make sense. Like those what do you call it? The cafeteria trucks that come by. They're the pet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the lunch
the
truck.
padded
The lunch
silver
trucks.
things
Lunch
hasn't
girl.
changed in I mean, you got a food truck sometimes
Years.
coming to but like if you, I mean, I think the micro food truck, like now you got these electric vehicles, you got some smaller ones, like something needs to disrupt there, and knowing how many pre-orders you have to show up at a job site, the order comes in at like 10 and then it just shows up. So the on-demand food can be deadly, right? And you could even plan it, in a week. Like you got this coming on this day, this coming the next day. Yeah, I mean, so what's the, I mean, this more than anyone can, like the typical for a job like a tilt-up warehouse, when you're at the peak capacity of the most amount of trades on site, how many people are we talking about have to have lunch?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the size of the project, but I mean, you're upwards of probably, 30 people.
Right.
what
30, 35 people, 40 people.
what percentage of people would you say bring lunch versus make lunch on the job site these days?
It depends on the day. I mean, like typically Fridays is like parking lots just clearing out at 11:59 to go get lunch. I mean, I was gonna say though, there was a site I was on not that long ago, and I ended up being there at lunchtime, and there must have been 8 skip the dishes delivery drivers that all showed up at the same time to deliver food to everybody. Yeah. And it was, I mean, since that started, I mean, that's been a big push, but yeah, what you're saying, even plan it even further than that would be a great idea. Cause I mean, like, I don't know if you ever guys go into like Gloucester area, 264th, there's a McDonald's and a Tim Hortons right there, 264th and 56th. And you roll in there. Yeah, it's about 6:30 to 7:30. You're gonna, the lineup's around the corner, and then same thing at coffee time and lunchtime. Like, it's just a madhouse because there's got to be 100, 200 people, even just in construction in that whole little area, right?
So this is another part of is another part of the field or the job site that I think again, when you compare it to the office gets, catered food, or you order skip the dishes for the whole team, or you do different things. And it's not because it's like special, but it's because, well, it's clean. You've got an area for it. You can lay it out. You can do whatever. It just facilitates bringing in food and experiencing that a little bit more. But it doesn't mean that you should, that, if you're in an office that, you should be eating any more differently or healthier or whatever. And I think that, everyone kind of trends towards more foodie type things these days, right? So everybody's, wants a little bit more of a...
Yeah, I mean, you still get, there's still the guy that's having 5 smokes and a Monster Energy for lunch. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, that's still a reality in construction here, boys. Let's just take it down a notch. But I mean, back before pre-COVID times, we were we were ordering, like, we'd have a monthly lunch in the office for everyone, and then we started extending that to the sites, and so then every other Thursday or once a month Thursdays, we'd have company lunch day, and each site would figure out how many people they got, and it would kind of be, even though we couldn't really see each other and hang out together with the office and the field, everybody's still involved and everybody's still in that email thread and everybody still feels kind of included, right? And that was a good one to kind of bring everybody together, and did it for, I think, a couple of the sites. We did it for the full site.
Wow.
And it was good to just kind of hang out and mingle a bit. And so
I wonder if part of the reason why, like, the office trailer doesn't get advanced, obviously when it comes to things changing and innovation, is when there's like demand for it, right? So if like everyone's demanding a better, nicer, whatever experience on the job site, it likely will follow. But I know from like all the times that I was, crammed in a trailer, having my lunch or whatever, it was always about, don't make the experience too enjoyable, otherwise they won't go back to work.
Yeah.
How much do you think that? But the same argument can be made in the office too. Don't throw pool tables in there. Don't throw ping pong tables in there. Don't cater lunches, because then they'll get too comfortable. They won't go back to their desk. But how much of that do you think comes into play in terms of keeping things bare bones so that people are just like, but like, where's the tipping point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you're two different scenarios there, right? I mean, you have a pool table and a ping pong table in the office. You're creating a environment that promotes discussion, promotes conversation, promotes working things out that you're dealing with right now. You got an email come through, you're flustered, you stand up, you go play a game of Pong with Buddy. Buddy's got the same email, you guys are discussing it. You know what I mean? Like, that promotes that, just that discussion, the conversation about it, and that problem solving. In the field, those boys are paid to swing a hammer. So, you're not gaining anything from going on the putting green at lunchtime for an extra hour, right? But I do, they have to be comfy. And I mean, like, the biggest one for us was the last, what was that? Just after Christmas, I guess. We had a job site that jacked up. We had a bunch of more personnel on site, a lot of more of our employees, did a big push on. And they ended up, like, it was pouring rain. And I can't have 20 people inside of the little 20-foot lunchroom sea container, right? So, we're talking about getting big, like, party tents and heaters and, like, all kinds of stuff for the boys to go and eat lunch in, because there is something to be said about, you don't want to make them too comfy. You're not going to go back to work, but you definitely don't want the guy shivering in his car eating a, bologna sandwich, right? You want to, hey, come into this little area and hang out in here and have your lunch, and then, okay, let's rock and roll now. You guys are refreshed and all dried out and ready to go. And so it is a fine line, and it's kind of the culture and the vibe around it, and how you meander that path, right? And how you deal with it just on a social level.
Well, I think Andrew can speak to this, but it really comes down to the business sophistication of the industry. And I mean that in terms of business understanding. Like in many other industries, i.e. banking or real estate or the tech world, they understand there are different brand audiences. They understand that they have customers they have to cater to, different message, different environment. They have their employees. But with construction, your employees are they're split into two different cohorts, right? You've got your office, as Christian's saying, ping pong table, pool table, great environment, because that defines when you go for a job interview, what's it like to work at XYZ company? Great. Okay, fine. Now, the strange thing is, I've always said this, being in the branding business, before this, someone would say to me, what's the most important branding element for construction? I'm like, it's your job site. That's a beacon for how you do business.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to your head office. Most of the time, you don't even see the head office. So the condition of that job site, its signage, what the people feel like when they go, okay, well, I'm going to go to an XYZ job site. I know I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. These are way better than all the other job sites I go to. So what does that result in? Does that result in when it's a particular trade and they go, yeah, we're bidding on this job with XYZ company. They're like, yeah, get that one. They don't even care if the company's going to make money. It's just that the staff knows that they're going to go to a great site and their daily life is going to be better. So because of the, and that environment's going to get better superintendents, going to get better foreman, it's going to get better everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So James, there is a downfall to that though. And from the field level, I can tell you that that smoke and mirrors effect almost per se can backfire. Okay. And we won't get into it, but I know that there's people that I know that have been like, oh yes, like I need to go over here. Like that's where I need to land. Yeah. And then, literally a month and a half later, they're looking for a job.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate part to that is when it looks so good and it's not, you know what I mean? And that's, it's a good point you make though, for sure. Like it's all about that look and what does that vibe look like and that culture look like that drives that industry or that thought process, even you just driving by.
But that comes with, comes with time.
We talked about the lights. We talked about the lights, Andy, right? With that's sick. That place looks badass. They got a full parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the lights, I'm in.
Right?
Where do I sign?
Yeah, 100%.
But Cam, that stuff comes with time. And I think that, if you're in the banking industry, for instance, that's standard. The problem is the standard hasn't been right now. You've come across a couple of companies who have tried to do the, wave the carrot and, come over here. But these are like stops and starts of companies trying to do stuff. When it becomes standard, like the next 10 years, this is going to be, job sites are going to look different. They're going to be connected differently. Yes. Everything's going to be different. And there will be a standard that
long term,
if you don't do that, then you're a crappy company.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you guys are both on point, right? Just in case, from a branding perspective, and we've talked about it before, the cleanliness of a job site, it does definitely say something about the way that a company operates. But I think that the whole thing here in probing is like just the case to be made for what impacts morale. And I think that this is really what we're going on about here is like, does a better trailer, does a more clean job site, does providing more amenities, to the field, whatever it happens to be, does it improve morale? Does it change the way that people are going to behave, be effective, be productive, efficient on a job site? Mm-hmm. And I think that, there is a case for it, but absolutely, Cam. Like, can it be smoke and mirrors? Like, sure, you drive around these business parks, right? They have many different general contractors and subcontractors and their trucks and all these things. And you see great trucks that are wrapped really well and they've got a fleet of vehicles, or you see a construction site that's got this quasi patio out front with lights lit up and their signage is crisp and on point. But it's like, is that translating to morale? Are people sticking around when they're there? Are they growing and building their careers there? Are they inviting their friends to come work there?
Or even if it's, if it's not a detrimental thing, even if is it just the same as, XYZ around the corner? You know what I mean? And, at the end of the day, when you're talking marketing like James's and stuff like that, really, that's what you're all for and what you're looking for. But it's, it's that culture that you're looking for, and that, do you have a barbecue beside the site trailer that you're, grilling hamburgers every Friday for the boys? Do you have a little fridge that you picked up on the side of the road for $100 with your own money to keep the boys, drinks cold and food cold? You know what I mean? Like and those are those points that you're looking at that are driving that field culture and that field morale, right? So
I think James nailed it. Like, it's that consistency over time, because so many GCs can win one job. Maybe they were low bid and they all of a sudden they feel like, they're God's gift to construction. And then it's the sustained brands over time that do good projects, deliver it, have good trade relationships. Sure, not everything goes perfect, but we solve our problems and we move to the next one. And then they start raising their game a little bit. Like if they start investing in better site trailers and those lunches, it's like, they've done this and then they're adding these points. And that's where I would say to a lot of our potential partners and our current partners is like, Ram's a good example of this too. It's like, you guys have done all the hard work, which is build a really good brand, have a really good, past project profiles. Some of the easy stuff is the lunches, is those little site trailers. Like you can do that relatively easy. The harder part is building that really good brand. So it's just bolt on those easy things and kind of catch that extra momentum. And that's what's going to push the industry forward a little bit. And we're seeing that with, remote work being introduced now and a bit more flexibility with, staff, knowing that, they might take off a little early on a Friday because, it's snowing on Mount Seymour and they could take their kids sledding, but on Saturday they're going to, walk the job site and catch up on emails and things like that. So it's kind of, those are things that are moving forward.
You bring up a point there, Andrew, about flexibility. And I know we've talked about this before, and there's this rigidity to a job site that, obviously requires people to be there from a certain time to a certain time because you got to get work done. You can't decide, I'm going to be a night owl all of a sudden and do my work, even though my team was there, during regular work hours. And then I'm going to go ski in the morning and I'll come for 1 o'clock in the afternoon and join on, in on the fun. Has there been, and Cam, I know this always gets directed back at you with this, but has there been any flexibility or change in like work and how it gets done based on all this pressure for being remote and having to take care of family differently and all that kind of stuff? Or is it just company to company and how you deal with it, really?
I think it's just company to company and how you deal with it. I mean, we really haven't done much. I mean, I know that we've had a few sites that wanted to go like an early Friday shift, so they do like a 6 or a 5:30, get the lights out, do a 5:30 or 6 in the morning to 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Get home early with their families on Fridays. We had a little bit of that for a bit in the summertime when the light was better and stuff like that. I mean, for the most part, the remote stuff was more for, the office people and those office jobs and stuff like that, right? And I think that, construction didn't really, the only time you really ever, heard about COVID or heard about COVID was from like the news or from your boss telling you to wash your hands more and sanitize the equipment down, or the job site possibly getting shut down because it might have COVID. But, there really wasn't any, further up the chain, supers and project managers, there was some like supply chain stuff, like I think we chatted before, with stuff like that early on. But, for the most part, it's just been almost business as usual. And, and then just working out, I can say that, I haven't had a sick employee on one of my job sites in like 8 months, because the minute somebody gets the sniffles, they're taking a day or two off until they get better. And, I think that's probably the biggest one that I would have to say. But other than that, it's been fairly just status quo. So.
I was going to jump in on that. Like, does that change the mentality of construction a little bit, where it's like, your arms basically chopped off and you're like, I'm coming into work.
Yeah,
don't stop
exactly.
me. Like this. And now it's like, it's, you see these, these people that have worked in the cold rain hard for all their lives. And now they're saying to their coworker, hey, you should really be home today. And I think it's moved the industry. And then things like maybe mental health starting to become a bit more of a regular conversation. How are you doing? Things like that. So have you seen have you seen changes on the job site? It's probably happened in the office, but is there any stories that jump out at you, or do you see that's like a permanent change?
Yeah. So, I think I might have touched on this last time, but I've been telling a lot of people like, COVID's got a lot of bad stuff to it, and it's it's horrible and things are bad. But, in all honesty, it's brought a lot of good to the construction job sites. And like we talked about one time about hand wash stations, and like I bought 3 or 4 of these things when COVID first hit, and they got delivered. And we were sitting down at a management meeting, and our owner's like, he's like, I approved this invoice for these hand wash things. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, we gotta, get the boys wash their hands stuff. And he's like, what were they doing before? And it was like, I don't know. And I mean, I think that
You do know.
Yeah. Wow, the carpenter pencil chopsticks was always one of my favorites. But the sanitization and just the health and safety in general has just gone up. I mean, there's not the old guy that's coming to work that's sweating because he's got such a high fever and hiding in the sea can to try and get over his nausea before he goes back outside, and like that's all gone, and I think the biggest thing from my point of view is I'm pumped because now it's not spreading. So in the wintertime, you get one guy get the flu and he'd show up for one day after he probably should have gone home already. You know what I mean? And so now that one guy is giving it to, let's say, 3 or 4 other guys. And then now I got like an entire crew that's out for 3-4 days because they're all at home shivering in a bathtub with the fever, right? And so that's basically gone. The minute somebody gets the sniffles, they're not coming in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so it's almost done set a bit higher of a precedence for that overall kind of cleanliness for the job site and just that health aspect.
So how many of you guys have typically in the past seasons going into fall have got the flu shot? Like in the past?
I've never gotten
Have you, Andrew?
Shot. Me neither. Never.
Yeah, I've never got it either. But so I wonder if the whole flu shot business is out of business this year. Because
it just transferred.
Well, it's just I'm gonna wait for this other one, right? For the thing that's a real risk, because it just doesn't seem like the flu is anywhere. I haven't had the flu this year.
No, nobody. Me and my wife were just talking about it the other day and said, we haven't gotten sick. Kids haven't gotten sick. Like it's crazy. It's been one of the healthiest winters and falls.
Yeah, minus the U.S. They're 500,000 deaths now, whatever.
Yes, that's not good. But,
I think they would beg to differ down there.
Yeah. 100%.
Do you remember that kid in Florida in the spring break? He's like, if I get COVID, whatever. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that guy's gonna go down in history. That little clip as the generation spreader. So funny.
I think a lot of things come out of this conversation, right, that can trail off into conversations and like complete episodes that we can dig in deeper in terms of just like even around this, right? And it's like health and safety related. There's like HR stuff. Andrew, you mentioned mental health. I think there's so many different things that we can roll into here, and we can dissect, and that we can break into complete podcast conversations, and we should. But I think it's good to kind of transition and just talk about. And this is one thing that I know that I've been pushing on a little bit, and Andrew, James, Cam, I don't know if you guys you got to have an iPhone for this conversation. I don't know if you can handle this. Can you handle it?
Hit us.
Okay. I know I'm totally segueing here, but construction and social media, and we're not having a conversation about like social media, but in terms of conversation, we're podcasting, more people are doing podcasts, more people are talking about current events and all that kind of stuff. But we have been just the last couple of weeks just testing out this new platform called Clubhouse. Okay. It's where all these things, further conversation happens. It's live. It's just audio. You don't actually look at anybody. You got people chiming in from, all over the place that just want to listen to your room and all that kind of stuff. And I think that where I want to take that is these conversations can be furthered with like lots of other people and like hashed out and all that kind of stuff on Clubhouse. And we've been playing around. We've been doing Wednesdays at 5:00 Pacific. We've been having construction chats. John Reed's been jumping on. It's been pretty fun, as well as just other people in the industry have been popping on. It is in beta. It is only for iPhone. But I think that it would be interesting to know what the appetite is for more conversation and dialogue like this for those in construction. And maybe the only little piece to talk about here, just as we wrap up, is not a whole conversation about social media, but what has the trend been like on the job site in terms of guys and gals engaging in social, and which platforms are the preferred platforms? And I know it goes back to Cam, but I think we can all just quickly touch on this just to see what the appetite is out there for people to engage in this type of conversation, right? Or even just digest pre-recorded things like a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pre-recorded stuff is probably more of an option, I think, for the field guys and stuff like that to listen. I think that if some of them, not all of them would have commentary or viewpoints that they would want to add.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Some guys like to stay in the shadows and in the corners and not get out there. And so, I think that's where the podcast really thrives, is the people that don't want to commit to adding their 2 cents, right? So I think that's a big one. But the guys that would want to, I think it's wicked that there's a platform available and it could be available to them to definitely get out there and add their 2 cents. And it's kind of the same as like the Instagram stuff. Like there's so many guys on Instagram have pictures of, construction, and there's, a guy that I know, James, and he's always posting really cool stuff. And then there's the guys that don't post anything, but just love looking at different construction projects and seeing updates and stuff like that, right? So kind of the same kind of go, there's guys that would want to listen or receive the stuff, but not actually add to it themselves.
So Andrew, it looks like you have to get going. So you got a call at 9, I think.
I do.
Okay, well, this has been awesome. I got a couple of other things to say. So yeah, Andrew, see you next time.
See you next time, guys. Thanks for coming, Cam. And
good to see you, Andy.
Thanks for the shout out on Clubhouse. I think Christian may have pushed me.
He's joining.
I'm going
the right way.
Construction Chats. James is joining. Construction Chats Wednesdays 5 p.m.
And if Cam's not there, we can just talk about him anyway.
We will talk about Cam.
I'll try and find a really old iPad to load it onto so that I can figure it out.
There's a couple of other things just to mention. Is that we have a YouTube channel, and the great thing about the YouTube channel, it's the SiteVisit, and on any of the videos, if you're listening now just on your phone or in your car or whatever, anytime that you want us to talk about something or you got any ideas, you can put it in the comments on any of the videos on our YouTube channel. So we will look at those, and that would be really cool if people could do that. Also, a little bit of news on Spotify. I just read this. Spotify is going to be allowing video for all curators and artists. So the podcasts, I don't know if you've seen Joe Rogan, he has video on his, and no one else can get that currently. So that is changing. And the other thing that's changing is they're allowing comments. So commenting on those as well, which is Joe's going to hate, but we'll like. So that's a pretty cool stuff. So there's some really cool stuff. I think we're definitely on the right vector of engagement with people, and I guess we just got to make this interesting. I mean, there's not many people. Not everyone wants to listen about work when it's not work hours. I think Cam, you can attest to that. Once it's 4:30, or they're like, I'm done. I'm gonna go play with my kids or hang with my wife, or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And but if we can make it entertaining enough for on the way to work or on the way back from work to home, and someone can get some nuggets, it'd be kind of cool. Just got to keep it entertaining, and you're a part of it, Cam. Thank you.
Thanks, Cam. Yeah. So
I love being here.
No, that's awesome. So we'll keep these roundtables going every Tuesday. Keep the guests coming on for everybody as well to get those industry tips from the pros on here, as well as James was saying, following along on social, follow along on Instagram at the SiteVisit, and our YouTube channel is just the SiteVisit. But yeah, please keep commenting, engaging. We want to really play around with this from the site segment where we answer questions, deal with hecklers, all that kind of stuff. I know you're out there, and it just provides good content for us to continue engaging with the audience and to help shape the industry. We're going to keep talking about site trailers. Okay? It's not going to stop.
Never stop.
We're determined on this one. But thanks, Cam. Any last things to add?
No, I think this is really good. I think what you guys do is really cool. I think that inviting me on to bring it back down to a site level once in a while and get the opinion on that, I think is huge, and I think a lot of people appreciate that, and I think that I thank you for it to bring it back to the boys once in a while and getting those views out there.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Cam. Appreciate it, man. James,
Thank you.
You know,
See you later on.
let's get back to building.
Thanks for listening to The Site Visit, a podcast dedicated to leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. If you like the show, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. To learn more, check us out online at thesitevisit.com.